If you watched part one, I want to start with a small correction. I said Jordan should have put his side of the equation on the table, been more like Joseph, who told Chevanique plainly that physical intimacy is important to him and he would not wait indefinitely. That is still true, but in hindsight, I was slightly unfair to Jordan because the question I did not fully ask is when exactly is he supposed to say that? And what would have happened if he did? This video is about that question. It goes deeper than Jordan and Yasmin specifically. It's about the situation that any man in that situation would face and why, in my point of view, the current cultural environment makes honest dialogue between men and women harder than it should be. So first we're going to talk about the timing problem. So Joseph had the opportunity to say what he needed to say in the pods. In the pods, before anybody had seen each other. You can have that conversation without it being loaded with the visual pressure, especially in Yasmin's situation, given the context. It's just two voices. It is clean.
Obviously, we have that connection of like, we're both Christians. So I wanted to ask, what do you feel about having sex before marriage? Like, what's your opinion on that?
I would always want to have sex before marriage.
Joseph said words to the effect of, I would always want physical intimacy before marriage. I love it. I'm a real pleaser. Chevanique heard it, processed it, and they moved forward. Not a problem. That's the ideal situation.
Why is that?
I love sex. I do.
Oh, okay.
I really am a pleaser. Like, I want to know what it is you like. I want to be able to do that for you, and I want to
A pleaser?
100%.
Okay, that's good.
Jordan may or may not have had that same moment or the same opportunity. I genuinely cannot remember whether that conversation came up in the pods for him or outside of the pods. But here is the thing. The later it comes up, the harder it is. If Jordan, once they are already engaged and living together, suddenly says, oh, by the way, physical intimacy is very important to me, it changes the meaning of everything that came before it in this scenario. Everything loving and respectful that he said starts to look like strategy rather than what it actually was. Him being genuine and true to himself about his motivations and things that he values. He was not lying. He was just silent on one of the key things that mattered. And silence compounded over time becomes a lie by omission. This is the timing trap. Early honesty reads as confidence and compatibility. Late honesty reads as manipulation. The window to be Joseph closes quickly, and once it is closed, the only options left are to suppress or to say something that will be misread. So next I'm going to talk about the vilification risk. Here is the uncomfortable question at the heart of this. Physical chemistry and desire is normal, biological. We can agree on that without needing to debate it. It is true for most men. I would say the overwhelming majority. So assume for the sake of argument that physical connection is important also to Jordan, as it would be to most men. Now imagine Jordan had said that honesty to Yasmin, warmly, respectfully, just something along the lines of, I want you to know that the physical dimension matters to me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not trying to pressure you, but I want both of us to have the full picture. What happens next? The possibility, and this might have been at the back of Jordan's mind, that conversation places Jordan on a scale somewhere. So at 0, you've got a saint who would wait forever without ever expressing the need and desire and the drives, the biological drives and his genuine interests. And then at 100, you've got a predator who is pressuring a woman, especially a woman in the scenario and context of Yasmin and her insecurities. Somewhere in the middle is the honest man who is being transparent about who he is, but in the current cultural environment, particularly in the context of reality television, where clips get cut and shared out of context, it does not always leave room for the somewhere in the middle kind of perspective. And modern feminist discourse at its loudest also tends towards the 100% predator type of definition. The manosphere at its loudest goes the other way, somewhere towards 0. And neither of those voices is the one having a nuanced conversation about what two adults in this situation actually need. So Jordan's realistic options were to suppress the need and watch the chemistry drain away, which is what actually happened, or be upfront and say something honest and risk being cast as the villain of a very public story. And he chose the decent option, which was sadly also the option that guaranteed the relationship would not survive. That is a zero-sum game, not because Jordan is weak and not because Yasmin is difficult. or that the situation was anybody's fault, but because the rules of the environment they were both operating in did not have a slot for honest, mutual, adult conversation about what each of them actually needed. So next I'm going to talk about the bed as a metaphor. Think about the practical reality of the flat. Jordan is attracted to Yasmin, they are sharing a bed. Yasmin has been clear, gently and respectfully, that nothing physical is happening.
I can take the couch if you want me to. I don't mind.
Would you actually take the
I would
couch?
100%. Yeah.
Do you know what? It's a big bed. It's fine. I'll stay on this side. You stay on that side.
Perfect.
We'll be all right.
We'll be all right. Sounds good to me then. That's fine.
Jordan accepted that fully. He was respectful, he was kind, but here is what that situation actually produces night after night. You are next to somebody you are drawn to, but you are actively not acting on it. You're not sleeping on the opposite sides by accident. You are actively enforcing a boundary that is not yours. The act of enforcing that boundary repeatedly night after night does not hold the chemistry where it needs to be. Instead, it slowly teaches both of them that there is nothing there, because nothing is what they were practicing.
I do feel a little bit nervous. I am used to just sleeping by myself, not really having to share a bed with anyone. So, I think that might be somewhat of a challenge for me. But Jordan is respectful and empathetic to the situation, which is just so sweet.
And the alternative, the one Jordan did not choose.
My number one priority is just making her feel safe, you know what I mean? And I just want her to feel at ease at all time, really. And it's baby steps.
But that might have given the relationship a different trajectory, is not removing the boundary. It's staying close, staying warm, staying present as a man who is attracted to her, holding her hand, looking in her eyes, maybe giving her a few cheeky kisses on the cheek and things of that type within a respectful boundary. Being the person who makes her feel desired without crossing any lines she has set. That is a very different message to them sleeping effectively on both sides of the bed with an invisible wall in between them. And that is a message Yasmin, who like most people, needs to feel genuinely wanted. In summary, Yasmin would be more likely to respond positively to it. So next I'm going to talk about Yasmin's agency. And here's where I want to say something about Yasmin directly, because the conversation cannot only be about Jordan. Yasmin is an adult, an intelligent, warm, thoughtful adult. She knew what she was bringing into the relationship. She knew her own boundaries, and those boundaries are completely legitimate. Nobody is suggesting otherwise. But my take, in a genuine, equal partnership, a red flag works both ways. If you are someone not ready for physical intimacy for whatever reason, and all reasons are valid, you meet a man for whom that connection matters, and the honest response to that information is not to wait and hope. It is to say, this is where I am, this is where you are, and decide whether that gap is insurmountable or not. It's yes or no. That is not weakness. That is traditional feminism in action. A woman making an informed, honest decision about her own life and on her own terms. What it requires is that both people put the actual reality on the table, and in this situation, none of them fully did. And she had the option at that point either to stick in that situation or to leave, and he obviously would have exactly the same opportunity. The point is, she was also in possession of information, her own position essentially, her own pace, her own readiness. That could have been shared earlier and more fully, and had it been, both of them could have made a genuinely informed choice about whether to stick in that relationship or to leave. But at all situations, both of them, including Yasmin, had the opportunity to leave that relationship. And more generally, I think people who choose to stay in the relationship have to accept responsibility for what comes with it. So next I'm going to talk about the broader point. The Jordan and Yasmin situation is one couple on one show, but the pattern underneath it is not rare. It is the pattern of what happens when honest dialogue between men and women becomes culturally risky. A man who expresses his needs clearly and warmly can be framed as applying pressure. A man who suppresses his needs out of respect gradually loses the feeling the relationship needs to survive. Both paths lead to the same place, and the answer is not found by moving further in either direction. It's found by creating the conditions where both people can say what they actually need early without the conversation being weaponized. A comment I received in part 1 suggested Yasmin might be better suited to a Muslim partner who shares her values around physical intimacy before marriage. Someone for whom waiting is not a sacrifice, but an alignment. There is something in that, not as a limitation on Yasmin, but as a recognition that compatibility at this level is not something patience alone can bridge if the underlying values are genuinely different. The debate this channel runs sets all arguments at 50-50. Not the manosphere, not modern feminist orthodoxy. The point where both people in a relationship can be honest about who they are and trust that honesty to be heard rather than judged and prosecuted. Jordan and Yasmin did not have that, and they are far from being the only ones. So in conclusion, I said in part 1 that Jordan lost the feeling between them because of his patience, not despite it. I stand by that. What I am adding in this video is the decent thing he did, the respectful, considerate thing was also... What I am adding in this video is the decent thing he did, namely the respectful and considerate thing, was also, in the environment they both were in, the only thing he could have realistically done. And it still did not work. That is not a small thing to sit with. If you have a different read, if you think there was another way he could have gone, I'm genuinely interested to hear it. Please tell me in the comment section, because I think this is one of the conversations that does not get had enough, and honestly enough, by people on either side. I think he was trapped to have to leave that situation one way or another to avoid the risk of vilification. Please like and subscribe, let me know your thoughts, and thank you for watching.